Come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. Never have to cut you out like right now. You see, I don't have to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me try to marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they feelings changed. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip.
Welcome to the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, powered by Blue Wire. Shout out to the new company. My name is Michael-Shawn and You guys can follow me on whatever Elon Musk is calling that app these days. Yes, I'm still just on that app for now. My at name has not changed, at Mike Dugar, MikeDugar. Shout out to everyone who is watching or listening via our YouTube channel. We appreciate all the love and support on there. Make sure you like and subscribe. It means a lot, even if you are someone who just consumes us via audio. And make sure you follow us on TikTok and Instagram. The handle is the same. Seahawks Man-to-Man. That's man, the number 2 man. Thank you for all the love and support, the shares, the likes, the follows, all of that on all of those platforms. Really appreciate it. Chris, go ahead and talk to him.
What is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Christopher Kidd. You can follow me on Twitter at CKID. Wow, I'm screwing up everything. CKid206. That's CKIDD206. And Blue Sky. CKid206. So if you haven't, go ahead and tap in with me on Blue Sky. I'm trying it out. So far, so good. I got to get better at posting on there. But yes, follow me on there as well. And then, yeah, what Mike said, echoing that, be sure to follow us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Seahawks Man-to-Man. Man, there you have it.
Yeah, I'm looking into the Blue Sky thing. Honestly, guys, I'm not going to lie. I don't know if I have the bandwidth to run another account. But, maybe we just do a Seahawks Man-to-Man account. Chris and my wife can maybe tag team running that. They already run all the other socials. So we'll work on it. If you guys want us on there and that's better for you guys, we're men of the people, so we try to serve you guys the best you can. So we'll talk about it. But until then, Chris, I think I can speak for both of us and say that we are very happy to be wrong. We both thought the Seahawks would come down here to the Bay and lose to a better team. And for reasons that make sense. Now, we weren't bugging thinking that, but we were wrong. The Seahawks outplayed the 49ers. They won 20-17. And I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that this was a season-saving win. It doesn't cement the season, but it definitely prevents it from being over, if that makes sense. Because right now, let's look at the standings. You guys know, big standings and point differential guy. The Seahawks, they were in last. Now they are in third. Everyone is 5-5 except for the Cardinals, who are in first place. And then let's see, the Cardinals have a positive point differential. The Niners actually still do at 5-5, but they're in last place. The Seahawks are right behind the Rams. And what's notable is, Chris, the Seahawks with this win are kind of, I wouldn't say driver's seat per se, but they're in control. However, we really want to measure that, because they play the Cardinals twice in the next 3 weeks. And then every game after that is an NFC game against the potential wildcard team or division foe in the case of the Rams in Week 18. So the season is very much alive. We can get into how confident we are that they'll do some things down the stretch, but huge, massive win that, Chris, I think highlighted something before the game and after the game, highlighted something that I wanted to mention that you can kind of feel that's a difference between the Pete Carroll regime and the Mike Macdonald regime. I'm not necessarily saying whether this is good or bad. I'm just making an observation. Chris, this regime is okay with acknowledging some games are bigger than others, and you could kind of feel, not to say that the other games don't matter, but you could just feel coming into this game, guys were not shy about this is a big game. We're tired of losing to these dudes. Even Geno this week, I think someone asked him, is this game, how bad do you personally want to beat the Niners? And he was like, yeah, this is personal. I want to beat these guys. He didn't just say, it's just another game. It's Division I, all those are big. He said, this is personal for me. I want to beat these guys. And there were other people that echo similar sentiments. We need to beat these dudes for real. Let's stop messing around. And then, Chris, today after the game, it was no one downplayed any of that. It wasn't this is a big one because it was the next one, or it was a big one because it was the division. It was not. I'm tired of losing these guys, so I wanted to win. It's very clear from, and it wasn't just the guys who had lost a bunch of times. It was from AJ Barners to who's only lost once, to Tyler, who's lost a bazillion times to them over the last few years. Like everyone kind of felt the weight of this game, and they acknowledged it and embraced it. And I thought that was interesting because you guys all know Pete Carroll's thing was no game is bigger than the other. Every game is a championship opportunity, yada, yada, yada. Which, again, I don't think is either approach is fine for me, because I think I'm curious what you think. Toss this to you, Chris. I actually prefer Mike Macdonald's approach because it acknowledges the human element of the game. Like, I feel like to try to trick people into thinking that every game is different is it goes against human nature. Like, you can just feel when some games is different, whether the stakes are higher or the opponent is better. Like, not to say you should act accordingly per se, like play down to your opponent, which Pete's team did regardless. But I just think it's more human to approach it the way Mike Macdonald's people are. I don't know where you were on that, but I actually enjoyed that a little bit. I enjoyed the change of pace from the regime and the players and the coaches this week, acknowledging that this game freaking mattered.
Mike, that's a good point. I think you are onto something there with that, just because it does mean something. This is a team that has had their way at Lumen Field, back at their place. They just win. And the Seahawks found a way to flip it and be the ones that are victorious on the road, which is crazy to me because at home the Seahawks are struggling, but on the road they're 3-1. It's kind of
damn. I didn't even peep that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. They're kind of becoming this team that maybe becomes scary on the road. But another thing I think is huge for this win is that when you look at what they've been through, right? A hot start against mediocre teams, beating a decent Atlanta Falcons team. They got killed by a team that the Seahawks beat earlier in week 1. I think Denver Broncos might be surprising a lot of teams out here. Anywho, for this team to have a bunch of up and downs, adversity, and then to go on the road when you and myself and others thought, hey, they're going to be 4-6 by the time they play the Arizona Cardinals, they responded with a win. And it was a win that perhaps kickstarts something, because for the most part, I thought they played, as you say, Mike, a pretty clean game. They didn't have too many penalties on Sunday. They only had, 4 penalties? 20 yards?
That's a good question. Yeah, let me look that up. Keep going. I'll look that up.
It's 4 for 20 yards.
Oh, is it? Oh, wow.
Yeah, and how many were on offense? I think they had maybe 1 or 2, one false start, not holding. They played really clean football, and they did it against a defense that has been terrorizing them for the past 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. So for me, back to your point about this is a big game, you saw that on the field and how they played. Sure, the run game wasn't where it needed to be, but when it mattered most, and this is something that I mentioned 2 weeks ago before we went on the bye week, give the ball to Geno Smith. Let him, you ride and die with Geno Smith. And the Seahawks said, okay, we're going to do that. It was a hurry up. That last play of the game with 21 seconds, the clock's ticking down, it was a no huddle play. Geno snaps back. The defenders are turning, looking at the players in front of them, trying to stop a pass coming, and Geno takes the ball into his hands and runs it in for 6. Would he have loved to throw a touchdown? Probably. But in that instance, it was about Geno and him delivering. Because as I mentioned a few weeks ago, give the ball to Geno Smith. I know you want to be able to run the football, but to be honest, that is not your bag this season. It just, as bad as the offensive line has been, you cannot consistently run the football the way you'd want to. Despite Ken Walker being Spider-Man back there, yet again making defenders miss, fighting off tackles. He does that week in and week out, and you saw that again Sunday against the Niners. I don't know how long he's going to continue to do that, but having Abe Lucas, I thought, was a benefit. I thought Olu, for the most part, he looked strong. I'm thinking, damn, was Olu that bad in practice that they didn't even want to give the young man a chance after seeing what Connor Williams went through throughout the season? He just had a rough season. I'll just say it. I'll just leave it at that. He had a rough season with the Seahawks, who is now retired. But I think the biggest thing is, will this propel them? Do they see that they can make some noise in this division? I thought they did a really solid job, especially on the defensive side. I forget what possession it was. It might have been. Nonetheless, they gave up 2 big 3rd and 11s back to back, and Juan Jennings ended up scoring on a play action pass. It was late in the game, but when it got to the fourth quarter crunch time, the defense found a way to get off the field. Geno Smith found a way to come up big, and they come out victorious. And I think that could be a catalyst for something big. Now, I could be wrong. They could go out there and Arizona comes to town, and Arizona is everything that everyone's been witnessing. But for the time being, with their backs against the wall, they delivered. And they delivered on the road against a decent team that has, again, had their number for the last 3 years. And as you mentioned earlier about Geno talking about it, saying that he's tired of this. Everyone's tired of losing. You felt that by watching the game, and then for them to be victorious, that's huge for this team.
Yeah, I think there's something you can channel the positivity of talking up a game or acknowledging that a game is big. You know, I don't think they got to hide from that or run from it. I get the methodology behind what Pete Carroll was doing, and that was fine. It worked for a while. But Chris, we also saw when it just wasn't. You know, they were dropping games to teams that were just losing to Colt McCoy a few times and stuff like that. Like they had some games where clearly they were like, it was very clear, okay, you're not treating every game like a championship opportunity because this is just, you clearly are playing down to your opponent, which they did quite a bit, winning or losing. And I do think, I don't think Mike McDonald's philosophy is flawless per se, but I do think that you can harness that energy because Mike's still like a process over results guy. But sometimes in certain occasions, like you just got to acknowledge like, yo, we about to just bow up, bro. No matter what happens, we just not losing today. That's what it is. And sometimes you need that. You see it in all sports. It's just like, yo, this person decided we're not going to lose. Maybe this person, this position group or whatever. And that's a nice segue into the person I thought did make that choice, a conscious choice in Geno Smith. And we talked about Geno Smith coming out of the bye week, or excuse me, going into the bye week, and how it was very clear in that Rams game that Geno felt like he's got to deliver. He's got to basically be the dude, you know. It's on him, he feels like, to go win these games for these guys. Just not only because he's the quarterback, just because of the state of the offense. Like you said, Chris, they still can't run it. You know, what they run today. It was like 18 carries between Ken and Zach for like 50 something yards, like three yards a pop or something not great. And also couldn't run it when it mattered, you know, in short yardage situations. Yeah. So they still got some issues. And the decision making, not all of it was that bad. I wouldn't rewatch the Rams game after I got back from my honeymoon, but not all of it was that bad, but it still wasn't great in the Rams game. And Geno felt that. He felt like after he got up there in that post game, and was like, yo, I actually cost us the game today. I'm sorry, my bad. I got to be better. Said it'd be better, which he says quite often, but he said it. He said that he talked to Mike McDonald during the bye week and told him that he was going to do everything in his power to make it right. You know, like Geno he believes deeply in accountability. You know, like he really tries to be a man of his word and stand on it. He talked about it this week as well. You know, he said that's something he teaches his son. You know, like you got to hold yourself accountable, look in the mirror, and, you know, be a man of your word, you know? And I thought that was really what this game was. Like, Geno talked about it after the Rams game, during the bye week, coming out of the bye week. It's very clear. He was like, and then, you know, mentioning it was personal. He's like, I'm going to do whatever. It doesn't matter if we can run the ball or not. The defense is whatever the score is. You give me a chance, I'm going to go down here and make it shake. And Chris, I can't think of somebody in the league under as much week-to-week scrutiny at the position than Geno, more from optics outside, not necessarily inside his own building. They believe in him regardless, but it just feels like you can tell by the questions we get and the discourse, you know, locally. It's very much like when Geno plays well, it's pay Geno. When Geno plays bad, it's Sam Howell. And it's just every week you were on this little pendulum or whatever with, you know, it's Sam over here, it's Geno over here, it's get rid of Geno and shut it and hit the reset button. No, it's pay Geno and whatever. Like every week it's that. And I just can't think of someone who just needed this type of ending more than Geno, man. Like that final drive, he was hitting every pass. The only pass he was incomplete was DK lost his footing. He ends up 7 for 8 on the final drive, 54 yards, scrambles for another 29, including the 13 yards for the game winner. like good decision making, good pocket movement, buying time on third and whatever to find Jackson, like everything you need, and then just runs it in himself. So now you can't even give nobody else no credit. No spectacular catch in the back of the end zone or something like that. It was very clear. It was like, no, 7 went down there and got it done, which is why he got the game ball after the game. And that's huge because I don't think it should go. I don't know how much money that's worth per se on your quarterback, but I do think the attitude matters. And that's another thing that kind of differs from the regime, I think, prior. And mostly this differs from Russ a little bit. Like, you can just feel the level of accountability with Geno. It felt like Russ was giving us platitudes and cliches a lot of the time, where Geno, like in that Rams joint, he looked really distraught. Like, damn, we really lost because of me, huh? That's wild. I'm upset about that. And it hurts. And he mentioned that. It's very rare to see Russ talk like that, and you could just feel the difference in the authenticity in that. But that matters though, because then guys are willing to go kill for you. Like, guys are willing to go strain for you and fight for you on both sides. Like you mentioned, defense had some issues today. But when it was time to play their part to help the other guys, in particular help 7 in the offense, it was, we're about to get off the field. Kobe Bryant probably would have bit Juwan Jennings' face off on that 3rd and 11 on the final drive to make sure he didn't go pick that up so Geno and them could get the ball back, There's just that complimentary football that I'm willing to, like, go out here and kill and die for my guys. Talking to Laken Tomlinson after the game, that's what he was noticing. He was like, yo, we believe, like, we'll fight for each other. We love each other. We going to do this, But I really think, in particular in the lens of Geno, Chris, this was probably, I don't know if he has a signature moment prior to this. Maybe, I'm not sure. He has several game-winning drives, but this definitely felt like a signature moment for sure. I don't know if it catapults them forward. They could easily just get smoked by the Cardinals next week or smoke the Cardinals. Who knows? But in the moment, right now, today, that felt very, very massive. And the fact that he, according to my editor who looked it up for me, Geno leads the league in game-winning drives over the last 2 seasons. I think he's got like 10 over the last 3 seasons. He's a very clutch dude, contrary to opinion locally, I feel like. And today was a good example of not only his play, though, but the character part of it. I think that's important, too. Like, he looked his teammates in the eyes and said, I blew it. The next time, I'm not going to blow it. No matter what it requires, I'm not going to blow it. And, Chris, I thought he was going to blow it for a second. You were a lot more confident than me before that final drive. But today, that's a 7-day. That's as much as it felt like the Rams game was they lost because Geno Smith didn't play well enough, which you could argue. Today it was very clear, like, oh, we our team won because we had 7. And there's something, and that costs a lot, man. Look around the league of who's folding right now. Look at the Bengals. They got Joe and Jamar going crazy every week. Can't win nothing. But the Seahawks are getting it done. It have been the last couple of seasons in game-winning situations. Having Geno.
And real quick to your point about Geno, he throws an interception, and now you're thinking, damn, the defense, can they hold this Niners team who Christian McCaffrey's healthy? They don't have George Kittle, but they got a short field. This is an opportunity for them to just punch the Seahawks right in the face and take the game, because now you're just putting them in a hole. And to the belief of what they see in Geno, the defense holds them off and only allows 3. And what does the offense do? They come right back with 11 plays. They go 70 yards for a touchdown. And by the way, they start that drive. Geno gets sacked. So after the field goal, after the Niners get that field goal, they come back on the field. Geno Smith gets sacked, losing 7 yards, right? And then they try to run the football. Okay, cool. You get 5 yards. So now it's 3rd and 12. And then Geno finds A.J. Barner across the middle, first down, and then it kept rolling. And that is belief from the defense saying, okay, yep, Geno turned it over, but we got you.
Don't skip that deep catch, by the way. That was on that drive, too.
That was huge,
3rd and 12.
Yeah, so they had what? 12. That's 2, I believe. So, excuse me, not A.J. Barner. That 3rd and 12 was to DK. Excuse me. DK Metcalf made the big catch there. So I screwed that up. Not A.J. Barner. But nonetheless, this team they just believed. They realized, we're in a crappy situation. The only thing we want to do here is either get a turnover or hold them to 3. We can't give up a touchdown. And the defense did that. And then Geno, he said, I got y'all. I might have screwed up, but we're going to march down the field and we're going to put up points. And that, I think, is just another example of that type of belief. Even despite the defense being with their backs against the wall. And they've had that a couple of times this season where their backs are against the wall. In other scenarios, it didn't work out for the Seahawks. They ended up losing that game. But on Sunday, against a team that they were tired of losing to, 0-6 for the past 3 seasons, they were able to deliver on the road. And I think that's just a huge thing for this team. That just goes into the more belief. I know, Mike, you've talked about that a lot. When you look across the league, the Jaguars, they just gave up on Sunday against Detroit Lions. Okay. They didn't want to play. They got destroyed. Gave up 50 points. So you can bet probably this week there might be a job that's opening in Jacksonville. Just saying.
Oh yeah.
So when you see the Seahawks 4-5 and playing the way that they did, I know I didn't really agree with that, with what Mike was saying 2 weeks ago, last week, in regards to, this team they want to fight. Duh. Well, you saw that on Sunday against the Niners.
You see why fight matters, though. You see why fight matters. They fought today. That matters.
They fought today. Devin Witherspoon, he's had a rough season, but you know what? About time, right? Bats a pass in the air. Who makes the play? None other than Jonathan Hankins. Tips and overthrows, baby. Sometimes that's what it comes down to, and you saw that on Sunday. Geno kept his word. The defense responded well, and you know what? The Seahawks walk out of there with a victory, and now they're on to the next. And I know it's another challenge because the Cardinals have been looking really good. I know Mike is big on point differential. Well, they're number 1 for a reason.
You know what's funny? The Niners still actually have the best point differential in the division. They're just last.
They do? Oh my god!
Yeah. So here's the point differentials
I know you tweeted
in order. I got them in order right here. The Cardinals are plus 18. The Rams are actually minus 26. And then the Seahawks are still negative. They're minus 8. And then the Niners, last place in the division, are plus 28.
That's what
they still actually have it. So that's why I'm not ready to give up on them. But this is not a Niners pod. But yeah, so but they're trending in the right direction. The real good thing, though, is like you mentioned, it's the belief, man. And on Geno's part, it's the accountability. It's the him believing. Even today, he mentioned, like, when the defense is playing like that, I have to make sure I hold up my end of the bargain for my guys, And there's just a level of camaraderie you can feel. People keep asking us about the culture and locker room and this Mike McDonald in year 1. I think that's a really good example of it through the Geno lens. Like, he definitely feels a level of like accountability. Like, if my guys are gonna play, I gotta deliver for my dudes. I cannot let my guys down no matter what. And that was definitely what happened today, because they didn't even play well. They just was like, we're tired of losing, bro. It's like at the end of the movie where the nerd beats up the bully. It's like, you're not stuffing me in this locker no more, dog. I'll do whatever I gotta do to get it, to make sure I beat your butt at 3:00 when school ends. And that's exactly what happened today. It wasn't even that pretty, but something like that's why I open with how they are treating games differently. Like, some games are big. That can backfire for sure. But like today, I think it was warranted. And I think they reaped the benefits of treating this game a little bit bigger. And yeah, that fight that they've been showing finally paid off. And yes, you're correct. Sorry, one more thing. Only 4 penalties total, 2 on offense. The only one that was actually legitimate was a false start by Anthony Bradford. The other one was a delay of game before a punt, which was intentional. So really just 1 penalty today on offense. Huge. Not a coincidence that they win a game where they don't shoot themselves in the foot.
The last game they did that was against the Atlanta Falcons. I believe they also had 4 or 5 penalties in that game. So, clean football really helps. And I know, Mike, you mentioned that a couple weeks ago. They just been playing sloppy. So no wonder they're losing games. But against against a good 49ers team, they were able to play clean football. And what do you know? They're victorious. But
it ain't rocket science, man. You can't hurt yourself. Can't hurt yourself, man.
And they did it on the road against a yelling, booing crowd, how you want to phrase it, just cheering, all that good stuff. They handle business on the road. So good for the Seahawks. Now it is time to get to Twitter questions. We don't have 1,000. So the cool thing is we can get to as many as we want. We can say your name and all that good stuff. So, Mike, let's get right into it and go ahead and get to our Twitter questions. The first one, we talked about Geno. This is from Matt's Design. Let's talk about Geno, the comeback king. Is there something about Geno going against, maybe his back is against the wall and it just brings it out in him? He's able to just dominate late in games. Do you see that, Mike?
Yeah, I do think there's a few things about him. One, he's a I don't know how much of our audience is NBA fans, but if you guys notice, for our NBA folks, I know Chris is big on it. There seems to be like this generation of like Kobe worshipers that are all subscribed to the Mamba mentality and try to emulate that. You even see it in the WNBA as well, with Sabrina and even Sabrina Ionescu, Paige Buckers. I forget. I'm messing up her name. Sorry, Paige.
Bukers, I believe.
Yeah, old girl from Connecticut. Like
That
you
works
just see,
too.
even Jewel Lloyd, Gold Mom, but like you just see like there's these Kobe worshipers, and they kind of like every time they have these big moments, like, oh, Mamba mentality, right? Okay, cool. I bring that up because like Tom Brady has his own kind of next generation of guys who, when they're in those clutch moments, they think of Tom and they idolize Tom in that way. Even college guys, and Geno's one of them. He wore 12 in high school because of Tom Brady. I think he wore 12 at West Virginia as well, if I remember correctly. Chris can look that up for me. But yeah, so I bring all up to say that there is something mental about that when you idolize that type of person, because that's really one of the things that Tom Brady's known for, clutching up. Kobe's known for clutching up. And I think that if you just kind of idolize that type of attitude and relish those clutch moments, I do think there's something to do to that effect, right? And Geno did wear 12 at West Virginia. I believe that's also for Tom Brady. Obviously, there's a reason why he's not wearing it currently in Seattle, because he can't. But yeah, so I think that's part of it. The other part is Geno's just generally a good decision maker. Obviously you throw interceptions. Pretty much everybody in the league does that at some point. I think Mahomes has a bunch of them this year, right? Josh Allen throws a bunch, so everyone throws them, but like Geno's just generally a good decision maker, feels the pocket really well, knows his reads, knows how to beat blitzes, is really aggressive, which is what you need to be in gotta have it situations. You can't like second guess, you can't be late. When Geno sees it, he rips it. Got a strong arm. And he's cocky and arrogant, like he wants the ball. To Chris's point, like Geno will definitely hand it off on 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1. But if you leave it up to him, let him throw it on 4th and 1. Their short yardage stuff buns. But I think there's something about Geno's mental makeup. The physical is obviously there. If you don't think Geno can throw an accurate ball, you just at this point, like he's very clearly very accurate. He's high in completion percentage and all the advanced completion stuff every year for a reason, because he's accurate, right? So that's obviously part of it. Strong arm, very aggressive. Even this year, Chris, Jesus Christ, bro, he's completing 69% of his passes. That is, wow, I didn't realize that. That's nuts. That's a really high number. Good yards per attempt too, so he's not dinking and dunking it. So I think that goes into it. But I really think it's mental, because in those moments, very similar to Russ was kind of trained to be clutch. Same thing. It really is a mental part, and Geno has that. He got there a different way than Russ, who like literally hired a brain coach to help with being clutch, which is nuts, but clearly it worked. Geno just kind of over time has built that up, idolizing Tom. So many clutch moments at West Virginia. Shoot, I think he led the league in game-winning drives, I want to say, while he was with the Jets, maybe in 2013 or 14, I'm pretty sure. I think as a rookie, he had a bunch of game-winning drives. Yeah, he had 5 as a rookie, which led the league. So he's always been this dude, but I think a lot of it is mental, and that's another part of why they're in the building so high on Geno. I was talking to AJ Barner after the game. He was like, yeah, man, Geno was so poised in there. It's like, just simple stuff, reminding us, okay, here's the situation. Here's our timeouts. Here's this, here's that. Just veteran stuff, calm. Laken Tomlinson's a veteran too. He said, I saw Geno's eyes and how he looked. I was like, oh yeah, we're straight. He's like, we're going to win. So I think, yeah, it's a lot of his mental makeup as part of that. Now, he doesn't deliver every time, but the numbers don't lie. I mean, leading the league last couple seasons. So yeah, it's definitely upstairs. Geno's got it upstairs, which is very important because everybody don't got it, So kudos to Eugene Smith for having it upstairs in crunch time.
We're gonna pivot and go. We're gonna stay with the offense, and I'm gonna combine these two. They're from Sam and Brad McKenzie, and it's about the running situation. Sam wants to know what's up with the goal line jumbo formation. Just trash? Is it personal? Is it personnel, scheme, execution? And then Brad is curious: would a more power back type help with the short yardage situations?
2 good questions. I think the jumbo stuff is kind of hit and miss. don't think it's totally trash. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I know generally in short yardage, the Seahawks are not good, bottom half of the league. But the jumbo package specifically, I don't really know how to go through True Media and filter that out and look at it. It's kind of weird. But I will say, I think the touchdown today was jumbo, right? I'm pretty sure. The Ken Walker touchdown, I think. So it's not like totally trash. I have to go back and look at the replay, but I'm pretty sure it was. I think though, in general, I think we should just focus on their short yardage struggles. And I don't think a power back would help. Duh. Like if you were handing it to Derrick Henry, obviously that would matter. Even Najee Harris, who's like Costco Derrick Henry. Like I think they'd be better at it. But I really think it is just it just doesn't feel like they're scheming it up right. Because I think the touchdown was schemed really well. I don't know if they talked about it on the broadcast, but it's a play they've worked before where I think they had the Brady Russell in at fullback, and Brady went one way, and it kind of had to show off Geno's ball handling. Like Brady went one way, and I got the linebackers to flow, and then Ken went the other way. Really schemed up good short yardage run. Because Chris, I feel like what they've been trying to do lately is just be like, all right, let's get a hat on hat. You guys know we're going to run it. We're going to move you off the ball. We are in week 11. That is not happening. It is not happening with consistency. They are not moving guys off the ball. I think even the 4th and 1 they converted today was trickery. I want to say. I think it was their pony package with Zach and Ken on the field together. So, I do think they need to rely a little bit more on scheme. Obviously, having a power back would maybe help, but that would only help if you're moving guys off the ball. I think it's got to be a scheme. You have to scheme things up, which is fine. I think Grubb can do that. We saw him scheme up that BS in the Apple Cup a couple years ago, 4th and 1 to Roma Dunze. But hey, it was a good call. It was a good call on 4th. I think that was 4th and 1. So yeah, power back, whatever. But you don't have one right now. So, but I really think running, whether it's Chris, how much you weigh right now?
143.
Okay, so whether it's Chris running it or DK running it, you're gonna have to block it up. And I think that is where the Seahawks have. I don't necessarily think they need to concede defeat, but Chris, I'm watching the same game y'all are every week, and we're watching the film of it. They are not getting a hat on hat short yardage situations with consistency. Grubb is gonna get people with pitchforks showing up to the VMAC if he keeps going with these shotgun runs and short yardage situation. He's gonna get himself killed doing that. But it just power back or no power back, Jerome Bettis or Chris Carson or Ken Walker, they're not getting a hat on hat cleanly. Whether that's the tight ends, running backs blocking, linemen blocking, receivers blocking, it's just not clean enough. I think they're going to have to be more like scheme dependent, which is, again, is doable. Because, yeah, Chris, this is ugly. This is not for real. It just shouldn't be this bad at getting a yard.
It is, man. It is.
It's just a yard, man.
This one is from @Mr. Donholm. Why doesn't Kenny McIntosh get a few reps? Charbonnet has looked terrible at times, and McIntosh has better elusiveness, and he can't be worse at blocking, can he?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Zach's a good blocker. Although, I don't know if they talked about it on the broadcast.
Oh,
I had it on mute.
Oh, yeah. It was bad.
Osa sack?
Yeah. Bruh, what are you doing? You got one job. Chip.
Yeah, it was so. Greg Olsen was calling the game, right? If
Correct.
I believe so. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He knows all their protections and stuff too. So when you mess up, Greg knows. Even though he ain't played for Mike McDonald, but I mean, yeah, that was what's bad, Chris. Because I don't think fans generally just admit to knowing protection schemes, right? But that was so obvious that Zach was supposed to help Abe that it was like, dog, you not blocking nobody.
What are you doing?
Help out your man. Yeah, that was bad. So, but in general, like Zach's blocking percentage is pretty high. Like he's a good blocker. That was a very obvious whiff, though. Like that was. I don't even need to go ask Zach about it. I'm pretty sure that was he just messed up. But yeah, I don't think Kenny. Again, going back to the previous answer, I don't think Kenny is the issue or is the answer per se. I really think that they've got because actually Zach. I feel like Chris, you tweeted this a few weeks ago. What game was it where Zach actually was the lead blocker for Ken on a really cool run? Was it the Detroit game? Zach ended up getting fined for it too.
Yeah, I like that type of. That goes back to the creative scheme where you mentioned, they should probably use their tight ends. And I say, you know what, Mike, that's great. But why not bring back this orbit motion and get creative with your runs? Get your tight ends as lead blockers or Zach Charbonnet. use your creative juices. The offensive line clearly isn't working the way you'd want it to with the hat on hat concept. So now you're going to have to get deeper and use other ways of getting lead blockers out in front of Ken and creating room for him to run. And that was a successful play. I haven't seen that run since then. I don't know if they just scrapped it and said,
well, today
we'll
was a
try.
variation of it for sure.
Well,
The,
yes, but that specific play, I'm thinking you can do so much out of that. You can orbit Ken and do a screen, which Mike is probably getting. He's
Don't
smiling.
get there. You're getting carried away, brother. You're getting carried away with screens.
Okay,
Now we was doing good. We was doing
I'll
good.
let you finish. Go ahead.
Okay. No. It was screens. We don't need to get into the screen game. See, the screen almost cost them the damn game. They run that same middle of the field screen and on the final drive and got 0. Like teams are going to sniff that out eventually. But yeah, I think changing the running back, it really is just scheme it up. Grubbs got that in the bag today. Saw a little jet sweep today with JSN. They got to change the point of attack with some of this short yardage stuff, which you can do. You can mix it up. But yeah, just simply saying they know we're going to run it. Let's run it. Let's move them off the ball. Me physical, you not. No, man. That's arrogant. To keep doing that, we're going into week 12 to keep doing that. That would be arrogant. So yeah, they can maybe give Kenny some runs. I wouldn't be opposed, but I really think they just got to be better at the stuff for Kent Walker. Because Chris, I think one of these is going to hit where they're going to have some short yardage play, and Ken's going to take it for like 40 yards to the house. If they block it up right, use other guys, use DK as the lead, whoever. I think there's so many opportunities. AJ Farrell, there's a lot they could do if they just kind of concede that they ain't going to consistently be moving guys off the ball, just running it up the gut, old school halfback dive. Nah. Throw those out. Get creative with it, Grubb.
There you go. Mike, we got the same concept for offense, that is, and it's about the running game as well. Offensive line more than anything. This one is from D'Artagnan and Slim Ziggy Not Nice. So grade the O-line play, and then how do you think Olu played on Sunday against the Niners?
Yeah, shout out to Olu, because that had to be just a shock when everybody like, what you mean Connor gone? Like, and I don't know why Connor retired. I don't even really care to investigate. I will. It's part of my job. But shout out to Olu stepping in. I don't know how much we've talked about Olu in the past few months, but I personally never really thought Olu was like liability territory. Watched his film last year. Watched him live last year. I thought my critique about him was, you're very good pass pro. People aren't just walking you back. Just got to be more physical in the run game. That was my things with Olu. And today was kind of reaffirmed some of that. Like there was a shotgun run. Speaking of those, I think it was after a big play. I don't remember what the big play was, but they went to a shotgun run with Zach and it got 0. And on the play, like Olu literally blocks no one. Like he is behind Lakin with his hands on Lakin's back. And I'm just like, that's not the play. It can't be. And then Charbonnet ends up getting tracked down from behind. It was like, it might have been after the interception, like first play after the interception. It was just like, that's like, what are we doing here? And then even on the 4th and 1, I don't think the play is designed to hit right behind Olu, but Olu was in the backfield, like 4 yards back, like on the 4th and 1 that Zach fails. So that kind of confirmed, like he's still very much somewhat the same player, but that same player is fine. I really think that maybe it's just because I spent so many years, Chris, watching Ethan Posix and Justin Britz and Joey Hunts just get walked backwards, and Austin Blythe and Evan Brown, that anyone who's just not getting walked backwards is a good center to me. At this point, I'm just kind of grading on a curve, so to speak. But I really think Olu passes the eye test in that regard. He did last year. He did in college. And I thought he did well today. The pass pro stuff when he was asked to was good. In particular, to highlight one play, pretty sure on the Geno scramble, one of the Geno scrambles to throw to Jackson on the final drive, he has extra time because Olu just has his guy right up the gut so Geno can step up. Like it's just stuff like that. I think Olu was fine there. In general, though, that's the end of my Olu love. In general, though, Chris, I really do feel like the running game is going to be these guys' Achilles heel if they don't figure it out. Like, they got to be able to lean on people. They got to be able to, like, if they have a lead in the 3rd quarter or whatever, 4th quarter, and let's just say they're like, can we burn 4 minutes right fast? Like, you got to be able to do that. I like the no huddle stuff they do in the tempo, but sometimes you really just got to be able to be like, yo, we just need to burn some clock. Let's lean on these guys for about 4 minutes. Run here, run there, be methodical, real slow, and be able to run and pick up first downs. They're not running for a lot of first downs. It's really concerning. Damn the explosives. Those would come the more you give it to Ken. But that part, that's still a little bit of a struggle. They protected okay today when Nick Bosa was out. I don't have the exact number, Chris, but I was talking to David Lombardi. He used to work for The Athletic with me, so I was chopping it up with him. He works for the Messenger now, or the Standard, whatever it's called. Shout out to David. He was saying he charted it out. He was like, he said with Nick Bosa on the field, the Seahawks averaged 3.3 yards per play. Chris, would you like to guess what the Seahawks averaged with Nick Bosa off the field today? This is according to David.
Probably doubled, so I'd say 7 yards.
It did double, but not totally all the way. It was like 6.1 with Bosa off the field. Like, it was just such a big difference, and I really think that shapes how you grade the O-line for today. Because they had, even on some successful plays, like Geno, when he bailed out and then threw to Jackson, like the little toe drag, knee drag joint. Charles is on his back. Charles was on his back like 3 times today. I don't know how much I talked about on the broadcast. Yeah, a rough one. He was on his back quite a bit. Like, not even the stuff that you got to really know O-line play to assess. It was like, I know you shouldn't be on your back. You know what I'm saying? And that was a few times today. I thought they were fine, but they're going to go back on film and definitely feel like, okay, we can be a lot better, a lot cleaner, help Geno out. But yeah, I thought when they didn't have to go against Bosa, they were solid. When they did have to go against Bosa, it was like it always is. Going against Bosa, the good news is the Bosa nightmare is over. They don't got to play him no more. But yeah, I thought in general they were fine when they didn't have Bosa, and Olu was decent enough that, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people watch this and like, yo, why wasn't he playing? How bad could he possibly have been?
That was my initial question. I said, damn, was he that bad in practice? What's going on?
Even the snap that was high, Geno got to catch that.
Nah, yeah, Geno, you get 90% of that, bro. As you texted me, he usually catches that. So yeah,
every snap ain't where it's like should be in the strike zone, so to speak. And I think even Mike McDonald today was like, yeah, Geno got to catch that. If Mike McDonald has a hot take about anything or definitive take about anything after the game, that's how I know it's accurate. Because he always is, I got to watch the film for everything. Even today, he was like, yeah, nah, let me find the quote before we move on to the next question there. Because I think he got asked about that. He said, yeah, I know we had the one snap that we mishandled, but it looked like Geno just missed it. The snap looked on target to me, but we'll figure out what went wrong there. So if Mike's saying that, that's how you know Geno should have caught it. So I'm not even putting that on Olu. I thought Olu had a decent game.
Let's go defense. This is from Anthony Green at Lil Green, 1986. How real was the Seahawks' defensive performance?
Man, I don't know how long into the show this will be by the time it airs. I got to apologize to the defense that we spent so much time without getting to them. Because, Chris, they were nails on some very key runs. Like, I thought they played together really well. And I thought they were able to be aggressive. You could see the D-line getting forward, recognizing that, all right, if I push this way and McCaffrey sticks his foot in the ground, Ernest will be there. That was like, that's what the game plan was. Like if I'm Byron or I'm Leonard or I'm Hank or Jay Reed and I'm flowing with the line, and then if I set this edge and McCaffrey cuts it back, I trust that Ernest will be there. And Ernest was there. And that was everything. There was a couple plays where McCaffrey gets up and slams the ball in his hand because he realizes damn, if I break this tackle, I'm going to score. And there's a slow-mo of Ernest being like, but you ain't going to break it, my boy, because I'm here. Ernest had 13 tackles today, and it wasn't like one of those games where, he had a bunch of tackles because they played a million snaps. No, he was getting to the ball today. I think Tyrese Knight had 10. But I thought that was the biggest difference today in the run game, which we've seen them struggle, Chris, bad against whoever the Niners put out there. Isaac Girendo, Jordan Mason, Raheem Mostert. Maybe not Mostert in a little while, but you guys get the point. McCaffrey, it's just pretty much been whoever they put out there, they can run on the Seahawks. And today I thought they played together really well. Edges were set. maybe they missed a tackle today, but I don't have the initials MT in my notes today. So maybe they missed one. I'm not sure. Actually, I know Ernest missed one on Debo on a fly sweep. That's at least one. But I think in general, man, the togetherness up front, it wasn't. Remember, Chris, there was a period there was like these dudes is in the same gap. It looked like they never met each other. They looked far more in sync today, and I thought particularly on the runs that they were trying to hit on the perimeter that we've seen them kill these guys on, like that very much like whether it was the toss or just natural handoffs where they flow it one way, stick their foot in the ground, and that backside edge or that backside tackle or that linebacker is not there. That was there today, and that made all the difference. You can see it on the final drive. On the play, Hankins gets called for defensive holding somehow. Ernest shut that play down, because he was there. I thought Ernest was a star on defense today. He was nails. But I thought they all just played well together. Those guys Murphy played well. Hank was hit and miss, but when he was on, he was on. And when those guys had the backsides filled and took on the double teams, they just made it so clear for Ernest to get to the ball. Like, I feel like Ernest got to take these dudes out to dinner, when he get back, he'll take his D-line out and be like, yo, it's on me, steaks on me, because I thought that was really, really key today. There was some other stuff too we can get to. I know we got other questions about the defense, but when I watched it live and then rewatched it, I was like, yo, it's very obvious why they traded for 13.
Well,
that's very clear.
Speaking of Ernest, this is from Ryan Turner at Turns44. 12s have seen a lot of Ernest Jones for a good month now. What type of response has he gotten from the players and coaching staff? It's rare to have a trade have such a meaningful impact. He was the MVP in my book today.
Yeah, Ryan, you're correct. Same here, man. Same here. I think the players knew watching this film. When they watched it, it was like, oh, okay, we're gonna be all right. And I think that watching the film from the coach's view was like, we can get rid of T-Dot. Not to necessarily say I thought they should have. I thought T-Dot was playing like okay. Tyrell Dotson, that is. But you can just see the difference today. It doesn't take much analysis. I don't know how much they talked about it on the broadcast, but Ernest was everywhere, man. Like, they didn't talk about Ernest on the broadcast.
Oh, I thought you were saying, getting rid of Terrell Dotson and having success. No, my bad. Misread that.
Ernest. Was Ernest getting love on the broadcast today?
I'm sure he was. I was locked in.
Okay.
I don't really hear much.
I'll rewatch it later tonight, but I watched it with the sound off when I rewatched it. But yeah, the guys know ball players know other ball players, if that makes sense. They just can see on film like, okay, he's with the stuff. I can go to war with that dude. Ernest, he does two things really well, finds the ball really well. And then the other thing is he doesn't get stuck on blocks. Like he does, like he can get off them pretty easily. Like he had a couple today on some runs. There's some runs that went for 1 or 0 yards that don't look like highlights, but it really an Ernest Jones highlight. He'll probably be might be my one big thing when I watch the film, or I highlight him as standout plays. Like he was really on it today, and he has the respect of his guys. And you could kind of feel it too this week when we were asking guys like, "Yo, so you just got rid of your play caller in the middle of the season? What are you going to do?" And everyone was like, "We'll be fine." Ernest got it. Yeah, 13's going to call the plays, and he'll be fine. We don't care if he's still living in a hotel because he just got here. He'll be fine. I think Ernest has a crib now, but they were like, we just don't care. Ernest is fine, and you could just see that you could feel the confidence, and that is rare. The guy to just show up and just man the middle of the defense. But today was a really good example of why they have that faith in him, how they can work well together. I thought, the way Ernest played off the D-line and the edges and the flows of the runs, I thought it was really, really, really solid stuff today, man. I thought Ryan's right. Their defensive MVP, certainly Ernest Jones for me.
Triangles shifting. In your opinion, how is Byron Murphy II doing? Was he worth being picked that high?
Yeah, I thought Murph had a really good game too. I thought almost every Ernest Jones highlight, it's almost like basketball, where it's like, okay, Ernest got the tackle, but the assist is the guy in front of him. Hank had a few big ones, and some of those guys just made plays too. I don't know they're all tackle totals, but let me just look here. Love has some tackles. Reek, a lot of DBs have. See, look, this is interesting though. I think this is important, Chris. Look at this. Look at the leading tacklers today. The 5 leading tacklers for the Seahawks. This is total tackle, so assist and solo, right? Ernest, Tyrese, J Love, Spoon, Reek, Kobe. All right. And it may seem like the D-line wasn't doing much with all these DBs and linebackers making tackles. No, that's just the way the Niners do their run scheme. They force your second level to come up and fill.
Make those tackles.
Yes. Now, not every scheme is like that. Theirs is like that. So yeah, you can play the run well, which I think they did today overall. I'm looking at the numbers now. Yeah, it played it fine. McCaffrey, 19 for 79. Like a decent game. 4.2 a pop. Jordan Mason at 2 for 13. So yeah, kind of whatever. A couple TFLs in there. But I do think today was them playing together in that regard. Jay Love had some good tackles. I think he had a TFL on the final drive, I want to say. Kobe had a TFL, a clutch one, They played well together. And that's what you have to do. And Chris, that was part of why they were stinking so much. In the past it wasn't just because the D-line was trash. The D-line was like, kind of is what it is. It was the linebackers stunk. It was the DBs coming up and taking bad angles,
Missing
on stuff.
tackles.
Yeah, missing tackles. Today was really clean. They're going to miss tackles in the future. That kind of is what it is. But I thought today they played really well off the D-line. And Murph, to bring it back to him, he was right there in that as well. Doesn't look like he had a lot of tackles today. What did Murph have? Yeah, just 2 tackles. But I'm telling you guys, the film will bear it out. I'll tweet some clips and share some on our Instagram and everything and our TikTok and stuff too. Maybe even Blue Sky. The D-line played very well today to set up the second level. I thought this was the best that those guys have all played together today.
This is from Eric at Tweets Are Dumb. Is there a stat that shows if a blitz is successful or not? If there is, I can't imagine the Seahawks are doing well.
Look at Eric getting some pessimism in there. He think he me. I love this question because it does feel like, damn, man, we can't get home on a blitz. Tell you this right now, they can't get home without a blitz either. So it's not just the blitzing. The Seahawks are not getting a lot of sacks. I think today they had 2 officially, but I'm sure as you guys saw, one of them was just because Brock Purdy fell down. So the only time they got a sack today was when Draymond Jones beat the right tackle and got there, and that's just not enough. So I do have the blitz numbers for you guys. Look these up before the show. The Seahawks are 28th in EPA per play on defense when the quarterback is blitzed. That's according to True Media. 28th is bad. There's only 32 teams, right? But for what it's worth, the Seahawks only blitz. They have the 22nd highest blitz rate. And that's kind of right around where all the people who run this same scheme are. The Titans, the Ravens, the who else? The other team? Chargers. I think the Dolphins may be higher. I forgot to check. Let me see where the Dolphins are actually. Yeah, the Dolphins are 18th. So yeah, all these teams are in this little cluster. So the Seahawks don't blitz much. They use simulated pressures. So if you see Spoon coming, Boye probably dropped out. If you see Reek coming or Ernest coming, that means probably Hank dropped out or Jay Reed or Derek Hall or something or Draymond. So they're not really blitzing. It's a simulated pressure. But to the point of the question, they're not working. The Seahawks are not getting they're not getting home. They're just not. Spoon don't got no sack. Like, they're getting close. They're batting passes down and they're getting pressure. But yeah, Chris, you can see it on the broadcast and see it on the film. They are not getting home. But it's not just because they're not even blitzing at all. Honestly, they might need to start. Because they're we can go to the next question. I'll look up their like pressure to sack number. I gotta be able to find that. It's True Media things difficult, but they're not getting home very often. But it's not because they're blitzing. They're actually blitzing very little. Perhaps they should. What's happening is they're just not winning. They're not scheming up a lot of automatic pressure. And when they're getting near the quarterback, guys getting away from them. Like, it's got to be really frustrating because they're getting near the quarterback a lot. But yeah, today was a good example. Just one sack, one true sack all game.
Travis drops in with Dotson out. How do you feel about Tyrese Knight moving forward?
Yeah, I thought Tyrese played okay too. Just on the rewatch, I really was watching Ernest on the rewatch, but I mean, I thought Tyrese played good too. I don't know anything about him in coverage, though. I do think in general the Seahawks played. Remember, Chris, in the wild card game, they were just hitting them with those dig routes over the middle, just boom, intermediate. Now, I'm sure they didn't run some of that because Ayuk was not, here. I think that was a big part of this game, which is probably why I'm not like too huge on this being like a catalyst for a big run down the stretch, just because like this was a definitely banged up Niners team. No Bosa, down the stretch, which definitely mattered. No Charvarius Ward. Condolences out to him and his wife. Loss of their daughter. Who else were they missing? Yeah, Ayuk. Like just single handed. Short. Oh, George Kittle. I knew they're missing one more. That's a lot. It's a lot of people who have killed the Seahawks in the past. Ward, Kittle, Bosa. So those pieces do matter. Ayuk. But I thought Tyrese and Ernest and all the guys in the intermediate level, just off first glance, did a good job shutting that down. I think Debo caught like one dig route earlier in the game, and that was pretty much it. Everything else that they did in coverage was Juan Jennings kicking everybody's ass in one-on-one. Yo, hey, we didn't talk about him much. Hey, Chris, he was locked. This Juwan Jennings cat was locked in, bro. Like third down, beat Reek. Third down, beat Spoon. Third down, beat Josh Jobe and carried 7 Seahawks for the first down. Like there was a little stretch there. He was looking like Randy Moss, just winning one-on-one. But to bring it back to the Tyrese and the linebackers, it wasn't that just schemed up, wide ass open stuff we had been seeing. And I think it's
very tough catches.
Yeah, no, he was making some tough stuff for sure. But it wasn't the schemed up wide open stuff. And I think that the linebackers did their part. Second level did their part. I haven't seen the all 22, obviously, but I thought just off first glance that was good. And then I have no doubt about Tyrese making tackles. We've been seeing that. He had a bazillion in college, hit a bunch in the preseason. Like he's a tackling machine. He's going to do that. And I thought he just did what I expected him to do, make a bunch of tackles, which is really encouraging. Because I thought, by comparison, based on some of them Baker and Dotson games, Tyrese and Ernest look like KJ and Bobby compared to what Baker and Dotson have been putting out there. Like this is a much better linebacking room, I feel like, particularly with Ernest in the middle next to Tyrese.
Corey wants to know, has the defensive playbook been slimmed down so that players can play fast? Or is it players starting to understand the scheme more?
Yeah, I think it's both. Now I can't necessarily quantify the size of the playbook. I think Mike McDonald said it. I don't know really how to just like measure that. I do think they're playing faster. I do think there's something to be said for familiarity. I think that was really what it was today, and against the Rams for what it's worth, in the run game in particular, because the run game really is about trust. Those D linemen got to be able to play it a certain way and play aggressive in some cases, knowing that, all right, if I'm Boye, all right, I see the tight end coming at me, right? I'm set this edge. I'm not going to make the tackle, but that's cool because if this hits right, Kobe's going to be right there and he'll do it, but you got to trust that Kobe's going to be there and then Kobe has to make the tackle, right? Like that, there's some togetherness that has to be established. And I thought that's what that was with all the DBs, with Ernest. I thought that was really, really important. So I think they're trying to shorten the calls a little bit more. Again, I don't really know how to quantify that. I don't know how many calls they had before, but the continuity piece, I definitely think is a big, big part of it, particularly in the run game, because they weren't busting a bunch of coverages as is before. So I'm not really worried about that. It was the run game where they looked out of whack on defense. And yeah, today was really solid. I think what was McCaffrey's longest run today? 11 yards? And that was, I think, towards the end of the game. I thought they were really solid. Spoon was in there making plays. Everyone understood how the runs were going to hit and who had to do their job to make it happen, and that's what was missing badly. Like, guys, really badly earlier in the season. Like it was bad. And now it's been much cleaner the last few weeks. And I think continuity has meant a lot. And then I was talking to some DBs this week and they were just like, yo, honestly, they just been getting on our butt about it. They just like, yo, have some pride. Go make a tackle. Because tackling ain't rocket science sometimes. Sometimes it is, hey, man, if you don't go get that guy on the ground, I'll take you out. And that helped. Today was probably their best tackling day of the year, and I think that's a reflection of the messaging this week from the staff for sure.
Ziggy Not Nice drops in once more. Is it safe to say my dog Trey Brown isn't going to be a Seahawk next season?
I don't know about that. But I do think that Mike McDonald is probably sending the right message about, hey man, you practice hard, you make some plays in the game, I'll play you. I don't care about contracts. I don't care about draft picks. I don't care about who was here when I got here, who wasn't here, whatever. I'm playing the dudes that can help us win. Now, that said, if they had lost the game, I guess this would depend on how they lost per se. But boy, that one Juwan Jennings final little push on third down where he carried like 4 dudes. Because remember, Chris, he did it last year too on Thanksgiving.
Yes. This is
Yeah. I don't know why this dude is Derrick Henry against the Seahawks. Like he's a strong receiver. He's a big dude. He's not a small
I
guy.
think it goes back to Sherman saying someone called him out and was like, "You trash, bro. You're like the 4th, 5th receiver." And I think from that point on, he's channeled just, "I'm going to destroy the Seahawks." I don't remember who said it, but I'm paraphrasing.
It might have been Quandre.
Yeah, if someone just said, "Bro, you're like the 4th, 5th receiver. You're ass. You're trash," basically. And from that point, to your point, he has been Derrick Henry ever since, just dominating.
No, you're right. No, he has, bro. He's on it. Like he really, and like he's played well against the Seahawks before, but these last few games really feel like, he's taking it personal. And it is personal. They don't like him. As much as the Niners hate DK, the Seahawks hate him back. I remember I did this year and last year, I did one of those anonymous player surveys we do on The Athletic. I can't tell you who gives me the answers, but like one of those questions is usually like, who's the most overrated player in the NFL? I've gotten Juwan Jennings the last 2 years for sure, including this year. Guys are like, oh, most overrated? Oh, clearly 15 from the Niners. Like very, very, very clear. They do not like that guy. Now, I don't think he's overrated though. That dude, he can play. Yeah, I forgot what the question was, but I just want to shout that dude out. That dude, he locked in, man. And he was killing it for a little bit. He really was.
This is from Aaron. I forgot about this one on the offense. Do you see the offense stabilizing a bit with Abe back?
Oh, 100%. Oh, 100%. I really think, and I think I wrote about this week too. I said one simple way that the Abe can be an upgrade for the O-line is to play clean. Abe didn't have a penalty. Sometimes it's that simple. It really is. Penalties are killing this team. Or they were, I guess, before today, and today they played clean, like Chris mentioned earlier. Abe is not a super penalty happy guy. He had a bunch as a rookie, but that's what rookies do. Right now, he's basically a veteran. I know he hasn't played much the last couple seasons, but Abe's a vet. He doesn't commit a bunch of stupid stuff. He's got pretty good hand discipline. Even a bunch of his penalties as a rookie were false starts. I think he had like 6 or 7, and like 4 of them were false starts. So, and one of them was an ineligible downfield on a flea flicker against the Niners. So like just on blocking stuff, he's a pretty clean player. So I think that's going to be huge. Abe's pretty good one-on-one. He had some good reps today against Bosa. The sack looks real bad, but I feel very confident saying he thought he was going to get help, and he did not. He did not get help on that sack. But I thought he had some other really good reps on one of those long throws to Jackson. He was really good. I think it was a 3rd down. So yeah, I think Abe's going to mean the world. I really do. I don't think that he's like season saving as one guy, but the more he gets like comfortable and gets his knee right and is able to play the full game because he didn't play every snap today, boy, he's gonna make so much of a difference, because then you're not leaving Charles alone as much as they have been this year. They've been leaving Charles alone like on an island quite a bit, and Charles can handle it. But you guys saw it today. Like there are some limitations to Charles' game. He's not Dwayne Brown. He's not prime Walter Jones, right? He needs some help too sometimes, and he really needed some help today a few times, and they started giving it to him though too. So, but you can only give that help if somewhere someone can handle being alone. Because you can't just max protect every freaking snap. Eventually, someone's got to win one-on-one. Sometimes it's Abe, sometimes it's Lakin, sometimes it's Olu, whatever. So I think Abe just opens up more protection possibilities, and means a lot. And he's a good run blocker. Like you can definitely have a whole entire series, because AB is a good run blocker too. You can have an entire series in theory where you're just like, let's run behind 75 and 72 until we get to the end zone. That wasn't today, of course. But I do think there's going to be a game where that happens, or a drive or a half or whatever, because Abe's just really good. I do think Abe's their best lineman. I don't know if I've said that on the pod recently, but be very clear. Mike thinks Abe's the best lineman. Not because he's a Coug. Tape says so. I just throw that out there. Tape says so. And I think Abe changes a lot for sure.
Big ass eyebrows. What do the Seahawks or San Fran, for what it's worth, do differently on Sunday versus the last 6 games.
Yeah, I think what I was talking about in the run game for sure. Penalties. Start there. Clean penalties. That's one. The run game stuff. The run game stuff. Because the Niners, they marry everything together. Like they have the run game sets up their play action stuff, and their play action stuff gets people butt naked open. I think that was huge. I do think though, not to just like totally discredit the Seahawks on their effort part. I do think they fought today, but they caught probably, Chris, I'd have to go back and look, but within that little 6-game stretch, like if this is the 7th game, so it's from 2022 to now, basically since they've had Purdy, this is probably the most wounded they've been, the Niners, I would probably say. Like to have no Ward, that's no CB1, no Ayuk, that's wide receiver 1, no Kittle, that's tight end 1. And then basically in the second half, no Bosa. Like that's a much more beatable team. Like I don't even know the dude who picked off Geno today. Who is that guy? For Isaac something, he may be a good player. I just legitimately do not know him. They had number 0 on DK. Like who the hell is that? I still don't know who that is. Yeah, Isaac something is who picked off Geno today. Where did this dude come from? Oh yeah, he's bounced around a bunch. This is like his 5th team. Oh my God, he's been on like 7 teams. Yeah, so that shows you how kind of the state of the Niners right now. Not to say they didn't put any good players out there. They did, but I do think that was part of it. The Niners are big on. They're not like a confusing you team. They use motions and stuff that they really they execute. They execute really well. That's their thing. We're going to execute better than you. We're going to get off blocks. We're going to block. We're going to run routes better than you guys can cover, yada, yada, yada. It's just hard for them to do that without some of the guys they were missing today. The Seahawks are really bad covering tight ends. Well, the Niners didn't have their number 1 tight end who burned them a bunch last time. So I think that played a lot into it. But in general, what the Seahawks could control was how well they played the run. That was a big part. Yeah, I think honestly that was damn near everything, really. Like even when they weren't making the tackle, like for instance, Chris, it was a really low-key sequence. Someone asked about Byron earlier. Byron beats his block and draws a hold after the interception that negates a run. That makes it like 1st and 20. That then knocks him back, and that's how they end up settling for 3. Like it was a small play, and Byron doesn't necessarily get a stat, but like this is an example of stuff they were doing better. I thought they forced a turnover, got one on Purdy. He hasn't turned it over much against the Seahawks. I don't think he'd ever lost to the Seahawks before today. So I think there were a lot of things that contributed, but really it comes down to 2 things for me. The run game, they played it way, 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 way better than they had in the past. And then, they caught a really wounded 49ers team, particularly on defense, and they were able to out-execute them because of that.
This next one is from Eric Wall. Do you think this could be a turning point, or is it too early to think about carrying this forward for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I don't know, Chris. I don't know, man. That's I'm still really skeptical in some pretty key areas. Let's see. I'll do the pessimist version, and I'll let Chris do the positive version of this.
Oh, you already know where I stood. I said this could be earlier in the show. This could be a turning point. So we'll see. Mike, continue.
So here's the things that would make me a little apprehensive about declaring that. For one, got to be able to run the ball. I don't think you got to be one of the best rushing teams, but I do think you got to be able to do it when it's required. And that is where they're particularly short yardage. And again, like I mentioned, a scenario of like, sometimes you just got to bleed the clock a little bit, give your defense a breather. Like, can you do that with your run game? I do think that's important. And I just haven't seen enough of that, so I need to see that. The other thing is someone asked about blitzing and getting to the quarterback. I found the number I was looking for. Chris, the Seahawks are 25th and the percentage of pressures that turn into a sack. So look at where they are in total pressure rate. Seahawks are, Chris, they're 7th in pressure rate, but they're 25th in how often they turn those pressures into sacks.
They don't play Kirk Cousins every Sunday.
Right, exactly. That's a problem for me. Like in terms of projecting for, because you got to get the quarterback on the ground. You can't just rely on your run defense to make the negative plays, because a bad run still gets forward. You know what I'm saying? Usually like, oh, I only got 2 yards, but yeah, it's 2 yards. A sack is like minus like 5 sometimes, minus 3. You need those negative plays You need those. And right now they're just not getting them. And I think Mike McDonald, it's a philosophy thing for him to not blitz, so which is whatever. But I do think he might have to come up off that. And if he don't, I think the defense is going to have some problems unless they just suddenly start getting better at getting guys on the ground. Because to your point, outside of the Kirk game, it's been a few weeks since they really got busy on a quarterback. They never got Josh on the ground. I think they got Stafford on the ground like once, maybe. Like they're just not getting quarterbacks on the ground. They got Brock on the ground once today. So that's one. So if I had to just give one thing on each side of the ball, that would be it. I don't know if I trust the run game enough to just be credible. That's it. One more basketball analogy because I'm killing it with those today. Like, in basketball, somebody just gets left wide open because they can't shoot. Like, they just need to be that person who, all right, when you're out there at the 3-point line, we at least run at you. Like we're not scared, but we're not just going to let you shoot. The Seahawks need a credible run game like that. Like, teams don't need to fear it like you would, like you play the Lions or something, but you at least got to respect it. And I don't think they have a respectable, credible run game. And then on defense, you got to be able to get sacks. You can't just rely on pressure. Pressure's cool, but this season has showed that pressure is not enough. Usually it would be, but to be 25th in pressure to sack rate, that's bad. So that's the pessimist view. Chris, do you have a positive view? I don't want to end on a negative
it's
view
more
with that
so.
question.
I think that just builds the confidence. What they did on Sunday against a Niners team that has had their number, I think just gives them the vision that, we can do this. This is we have a chance here, guys. Our backs are against the wall still, but we handle business on the road, and we gave it to our best player, and he delivered when we needed it. On defense, we got stops we needed on big plays, third down, third and long. Juan Jennings previously turned to an Incredible Hulk and ran through you. The previous play, he was just dominant. And then they dump it to him short. He slaps Josh Jobe off of him, and you're thinking, oh, not again. Don't let Juan just do it again. But they rallied, and they were able to bring him down, I think they pushed him out of bounds. But nonetheless, the thing is, they realized the importance of that. And that goes back to the original point that Mike brought up regarding playing how big this game against the Niners was. Now they have to do that basically for the rest of the season. And yeah, it's easy to say those things, but are they going to have that same drive that they did on Sunday against the Niners the following weeks? Because there's desperate teams as well. You don't think the Jets are desperate? Their season's over. They're 3-8.
No, they're not playing with any desperation.
So maybe you can chalk that up as a W, but the Cardinals, they're looking at it as...
No, the Cardinals are locked in, yeah.
Exactly. So they're going to have to channel that week in and week out. I don't know if they can. I don't know if they will. But on Sunday against the Niners, I thought that was a good leap. To your point, Mike, I think that's kind of hard to look further ahead and say, oh, yeah, they'll be fine. They showed out. That's great. But they have a lot of negatives that are still, as you mentioned, not being able to run the football. That's huge. You can't run the football. That just makes you one-dimensional. And you know what team's going to start doing? They're going to just drop 7 dudes. They're just going to drop 7, make you throw it deep. You know how the Seahawks played the Niners on Sunday? Watching the game live, I noticed they're just dropping dudes deep, and they're giving you the underneath, and they're rallying and not missing tackles. That's what teams are going to do to the Seahawks when they can't run the football. They're just going to drop guys back. You can't run the football. We're not worried about it. It's not a worry. To Mike's point about playing basketball, leaving guys wide open because they can't shoot. Well, teams are going to start doing that. You can't run the football. We're about to just send 3 dudes to you. We're not worried. You're not a threat. That could become a problem in the second half of the season.
I got one positive before we go. I wanted one additional positive. If they can clean up the operation, that will help tremendously. I think I tweeted this during the week in a Q&A I did on Friday. I think like half of Seattle's problems were clean operations. I was a little pessimistic when we did our one big thing. However, not going to lie, a great deal of that pessimism had to do with Connor Williams because he just was not snapping the ball well. That was like, and clearly he just wasn't on the same page with everyone else with the cadences either. That was just not clean. False starts and stuff. If they're just cleaner, not even like the cleanest team, if they're just cleaner, that solves half the problems, I think. So that is a huge part because that's within their control. That's nothing to do with the opponent. I'm not talking about holding penalties. I'm talking about stuff you control. Ineligible downfield, false starts, delay games, snaps that go over Geno's head. stuff that got nothing to do with the opponent. They can clean that stuff up. They'll be much just better. Not to say it'll change everything, but I do think that was damn near half the issues. So if Olu just snaps the ball clean every game, that fixes 15% of the problems right there. So I do think that's a huge positive going forward. That on the offensive side for sure.
This is from Awkward Kong. Is there a good team in the NFC West? Is it the Cardinals?
Yeah, man, this is gonna sound crazy. I do think that the healthy version of the Niners is good. I do not think they are good without Kittle, Ayuk, Ward, Bosa. I do think that they need their good players for sure. Without them, we've seen what they look like. I think they're not getting Ayuk back, but even if they just get Kittle back next week, I don't know. Bosa said he hurt his other hip. That's tough. I think their next 2 games are at Green Bay and at Buffalo, so they might be cooked. But I do think healthy, they're fine. The Rams, I don't think are very good. I didn't think that after last week either. That's why their point difference was so bad. The Cardinals, we'll see. Because I think right now I could end up eating my words on this, but right now I think the Cardinals defense is just Budda Baker and some dudes, and I don't think that's enough. So we'll see. Their corners are playing better as of late. We'll preview them this week with the homie Doug. Yeah, I think right now the Cardinals and Niners are good. Cardinals are good. Healthy Niners are good. Seahawks are like average. But I reserve the right to change my mind on that Cardinals pick because I need to see that defense. I don't have no problems with Kyler and Marvin Harrison and their tight end Trey McBride is playing out of his mind. James Conner runs like a brick with cleats on. So they right now, yes, I would say the Cardinals are it. But I don't think any of these guys are great. But I think we can probably all agree on that right now. Like if any of these teams in the NFC West had to go to Detroit with their season on the line, Detroit is probably dropping 60 because Detroit wants to drop 60 on everybody because Dan Campbell is trying to win the BCS national championship and run the damn score up every freaking week. Shoot, even if these guys went to Philly, I think every team in the NFC West would lose if they went to Philly next week. So there's no great team, but I think that's maybe how you look at it. That's a positive for the Seahawks. The Seahawks can very well go win the division, I guess, if the Niners are going to be wounded and the Cardinals are going to be iffy. So we'll see. Next week will tell us a lot. But yeah, I think there are good teams in the division, but no great team.
Chihuahua Loco, if the Seahawks finish 8 or 9 or worse, how deep do you think ownership will go to force change?
Yeah, I talked about this too in a mailbag this week and on my Q&A on X. Maybe I'll do a Q&A on Blue Sky or something. But I think it would have to get real bad for there to be sweeping changes. I think you guys are seeing how John Snyder can every year basically convince himself if we tweak a few things here, we'll be okay. A lot of years that's just not true. And even this year, I still don't think that's true. Like 8 and 9, you could see John being like, yeah, I can already hear John being like, yeah, we had a couple games there that came down to the end, if we can clean those up, or like, look how he's going to probably focus more on their defense with Ernest versus than when they didn't have Ernest and Abe being back, which are not wrong things, but I think it's very short-sighted. I think when you really step back and look at the franchise and the fate of it, they need a harder reset than John's really willing to do. And I think 8-9 is a perfect example of, I don't think they'll go 8-9. I don't know what they'll go. I have no idea if the Seahawks are good or not. But I do think if they were to finish 8-9, it'll be very easy for John and Jody Allen to do what they've done the last few years. Oh, we're right there. We're right there. If we get a few things break here, some better health here, they'll probably mention like, Chenna being out and Abe and all these things that if they could just do insert here, they'd win. I can already see them thinking that. So I think that's exactly what happened again this offseason if they were to go 8-9. Because it's just so easy to do that. Look, I damn near talked myself into it during that answer. Looking at the defense with Ernest Jones and with Abe back, I think they made that mistake after the 2020 season where it's like, oh, look, now we'll have Carlos for a full season, or now we'll have that we got Jamal, like pay Jamal after that season. I really think it's going to be easy for them to convince themselves that they're right there, which sucks because if they go 8-9, you're not right there. I can say that with confidence. You're not right there if you go 8-9.
Last one from Adam. What's the ceiling for the team this season?
Ooh. You know, I would say the ceiling is probably a home game in the division, or excuse me, a home game in the playoffs. Really, just because you would just have a chance with the Cardinals, because I'm really iffy on them. So and then you got the freaking Niners really wounded. I don't know what's apparently Bosa's thing sounds really bad. The Niners, I didn't realize their schedule until I was talking to some Niners writers after the game. Like, let me look at their schedule real fast. I know it's not a Niners pod, but it affects the ceiling. So yeah, the Niners' next two games are at the Packers, excuse me, then at the Bills. Looks like that's a primetime game. And then they host the Bears, host the Rams, which is not a guarantee for them. They're at the Dolphins. Who knows how that goes? Oh damn. Then they host Detroit. Ooh, shoot. Ooh, man, the Niners could be in trouble if they don't heal up. I don't know what's wrong with George. I think it's his hamstring or something.
Correct.
But yeah, it was his hamstring. Yes, thank you. Yeah, it really comes down to next week that determines the ceiling. I still think though, Chris. Let's project this out. Let's say they mess around and win a division somehow. I don't think that'll happen, but let's just pretend for the sake of whatever. All right, let's assume what seed do we want to give them? The 3 or the 4 if they win a division in
4.
this scenario? Give them the 4. Okay, cool. Well, the 4 right now is Atlanta. They'd have the tiebreaker over them, but that's fine. Let's give them the 4. You're the 4. You host the 5. Let's say that the 5 in this scenario is Green Bay. So you host Green Bay as the 5. They beating Green Bay first round? Maybe we'll see. They play Green Bay at home in a few weeks, so that would really probably answer that. Maybe who knows? Green Bay's
They stuck at home though, Mike. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I think actually Green Bay is an actually really solid team. I know they squeak one out today, but sometimes you got to do that. It's the NFL. So maybe they do that, and then you got to go to Philly or you got to go to Detroit, and then you're screwed. I just think those two teams are playing really well defensively and offensively. They can dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides. I think what Philly did to Washington in the Thursday night game is an example of what they can do because of the line of scrimmage. They can lean on Saquon in the run game, like I was talking about what the Seahawks need to be able to do. They can just lean on you, and then on defense, they got dogs. And in the secondary, they are strapping with a bunch of white guys in the secondary too. You got race relations on fire over there. So I think that actually, yeah, Chris, it doesn't even matter because if we gave them the 3 seed, they could be hosting Green Bay or Washington in those scenarios too. So I think that it's like best case, you get a home playoff game, which is progress. That would be huge. I don't think that's going to happen like sitting here right now. But if you ask me the ceiling, that's probably it, particularly if you even if you just split with the Cardinals. You split with the Cardinals and beat the Jets. What's your record in that scenario, Chris? I'm asking you for a lot of math. I'm sorry. But
split. So is that
with
10
the Cardinals?
10 and 9?
No, split with the just over the next 3 weeks. You split with the Cardinals and beat the Jets, then you are 7-6.
7-6.
7-6. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 7-6 going into the Green Bay game. Yeah, I mean I think that puts you in a decent spot to win a division. Again, I don't know if that's going to happen. Don't think so, but that's probably the ceiling. And then I think Philly and Detroit are just even Washington right now, and Green Bay are more legit teams who I think are a lot more balanced on both sides of the ball, but particularly offensively. I think that's what's going to be the difference. I really can't stress that enough, guys. If you can't lean on teams just for a drive or two or a quarter or a half, when you really got to have it, you can't play championship ball. If everything is decided on, does Geno have pass protection and can he find JSN or DK or whatever, that's just not going to last when you play teams that got dudes. Like today, by the end of the game, the Niners didn't have dudes. They had Leonard Floyd. That was it. So Geno was able to run all over them. When they had their dude, Seahawks couldn't move the ball. So I think that they got to get that run game right, man. Until they get the run game right, the ceiling is getting bounced in the first round of the playoffs for me.
That's fair. Well, we want to thank you guys for listening to another episode of Seahawks Man to Man. We appreciate all the comments, the tweets, the love and support. Make sure again that you go check us out on TikTok, Seahawks Man to Man, Instagram, Seahawks Man to Man, and YouTube as well, as we're still on the road to 4K. So please subscribe if you haven't already. Mike, is there anything you want to add before we get out of here?
Thank you for the love and support, guys. Really, really appreciate it. Can't thank you guys enough, man. You guys are the reason we do the pod, so wherever you're listening, make sure you just like and subscribe everywhere. We'll give the blue sky thing a thought. Chris and I will talk about it as time goes. But let us know. Keep leaving comments, tweeting us, whatever. If that's the more we know you guys are on there and interested, the more we'll consider it. But yeah, thank you for joining us. Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. Like, subscribe, YouTube. Appreciate the love and support, and we'll catch you guys on our One Big Thing /preview show later in the week. Peace.